Good color, Matt. I like that. Charlie's in front of you. Look at the man in front of you. He's wearing the right color. Too bad we're no good. There she is.
Yeah, I was trying to say, heard a quarterback, what was it like, so. Okay.
He's increased the dosage or decreased the dosage.
I'm sure how.
There you go. I meant to tell you, I don't know if you knew it, Joe.
Yeah, I talked to Joel. I wanted to go to urban today. I had to.
She's in the back.
Way less than yeah, I did talk to.
Sign up sheet for that. He was pretty sad. Pilot training about. I've got it.
You know, that's it.
Old school.
Well, again, that cancel. Off plan.
Let's do that.
Our neighborhood, Lombard Park representatives.
Hey, tell your council. They're here. They're after you. They're after, I told them. All right. Better him than me.
Hey, I'm an easy target. I'm easy to be found.
He's bigger than me. He's easier to hit.
I'm an easy target.
Hey, maybe he and Ted can play together in the toilet bowl and see who has the
Oh,
best.
God, man, I'm so worried about my team.
Man, they looked sick the other night.
Oh, my
Did you
God.
watch that game?
Hell.
Oh, my God.
They went to Washington State, they look like they get off of the
Yeah.
news. I mean, they're like.
Make a score and score.
Terrible. They was, you think they were not, I mean, they played like they were not Sinead, so.
I know.
Hey, we ain't much better. I mean, I thought I was in the game and I laughed so hard. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Were you there? Yeah. It'll be the same lesson turn that. Had to look at.
Yeah, I thought
Oh, I think I got it. I got it. That was the host.
Flew in there. Tummy bug? Yeah. Cause she's such a It'll be
So you want to last.
Yes, we love. Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Because I've been sleeping. The 9-year-old's got a basketball game.
It's not bad. Doing something special.
Hey, you go. Who's it? Scott Cherry.
I always have things to say.
Yeah, he hit this. Yeah, and you didn't know why.
Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District on September 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the district's office located at 1605 Whitaker Drive, Friendswood, Texas. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and would you please stand for the invocation and the pledge? Lord, gathered here, of course, to do work on behalf of the citizens of Friendswood. We ask you to make us firm in our resolve and our commitment to our citizens, not weak, but firm and articulate in the way that we express ourselves. Please help us listen to our taxpaying citizens, to process and respond accordingly in the way that would just alleviate some of this flooding and drainage issues that we've faced here for so many decades. Lord, thank you for sparing us of another hurricane. We pray for the people in Louisiana and hope that they fare better on their power situation than we did here in the Texas Gulf Coast. Lastly, Lord, I would like you to please raise up Joseph Anderson's family. There was a tragic death of his nephew, Brian, about 10 days back. And we just ask you to please raise up Monica and his wife, Melissa, Joseph, and his brother, and just be with them as they navigate these difficult days forward. In your name we pray all things. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Citizens' comments. We are going to implement 5 minutes per person. If Samantha would please keep the time, I'll kind of give you we're getting about the 4-minute mark. If you would, Samantha, let me know when we get to the 4-minute mark, and we will go from there. So our first participant is Don Johnson.
Thank you very much. Some of my neighbors have come today, and I've been asked by some of the folks, whatever happened with the flood. And so I've been kind of trying to explain it to them. And I know some other people out here, plug, what plug? What plug are you talking about? Well, we have a little kind of map up here, and it's a map of Clear Creek that winds around the back of our neighborhoods. And it also backs around some of the neighborhoods in the forest. And as it comes around through here, as the golf course was being built, there was a bypass, a high flow bypass that was put in across both parts of the upstream and downstream of this big cloverleaf oxbow. That's the biggest oxbow, I think, on Clear Creek, at least back in our section. And that was going to cut down, really make that path of the water a lot shorter, get the water through there a lot quicker. You can't really see it on here, but you know, we've got a problem with up at the top part of the oxbow. We have another creek which comes in up there, Turkey Creek. And so it's things really get congested there. We've been asking for a long time to see if we can get this plug removed. If you go on to the next one, I'll kind of show you what, this was the actual plat that was done. And I don't know what the, how they got away with this, but it's showing, I don't know if you can kind of see where that cloverleaf oxbow is down there where the bypass is. The guy there actually showed it as being the main line of Clear Creek, which, you know, bypass wouldn't be the main line, but it would certainly help alleviate part of that. And some of the interesting points on here is it also shows that there is a easement for 150 feet from the center line of the creek out 150 feet from the creek. So a lot of this stuff back in here is definitely under control of the drainage districts. If you go to the next one, and then the next one, kind of I've always called this kind of the smoking gun in the argument between me and when I was having it with the city, because the city insisted, you know, some of the things I just thought were ridiculous, that this was a natural formation. Oh, it was a natural bypass except for the plug. That just naturally formed all by itself. No, I mean, this is a grading illustration from the early days of the planning section for the Timber Creek Golf Course. And where that yellow is there, those are all elevation lines. And that's showing that that was supposed to be straight across from the upstream part to the downstream part. We would cut that out to improve the flow of the creek through there. That was the plan that was approved. So, you know, if somebody changed it later, well, that kind of undermines P&Z, and that undermines all of our planning processes and approval processes. Let's go on to the next one and see if we can actually see some pictures. As you're coming from the upstream side, you're coming these little bricks and all that thing you're seeing there, that's the plug. That's where somebody's put the plug in there, and it just hasn't formed naturally with those little bricks and all that material put in there to try and stop erosion. If you go on to the next one, we'll show you from the top of the plug, looking back down across the bypass, you can see there's a nice trough in there that's been built by somebody to allow water to flow. And then if you go on to the next one, you'll see this is from the other side of the creek looking back across the bypass to the plug. That wasn't just something that naturally formed. That was, you know, obviously supposed to be a bypass. And I've actually been back there when we've had one of our gully washers, and I've seen water breaking over the top of the plug, falling down into what would be the bypass. And the bypass, as far as I can tell, was put there to allow some golf carts to go back and forth between a few of the houses that are near the creek and the golf course. I think that's the end of it. See if there's another one there or not. I think yeah. we clicked through that pretty quickly. And what we would like to see, and we know it's only gonna make a little bit of difference. It's only gonna be a few inches improvement for our side. It's gonna be a few inches more water going downstream. But with the improvements that have been made in Imperial Estates, that's gonna mitigate any additional water coming down. When the prior board did their studies, they didn't want to put both studies together, so they had two independent studies. They had one independent study, we're at 5 minutes on it, okay. They had one independent study and that independent study said there would be just a few more inches one way or the other. But if they combined that into one study, it would have showed that any additional water flowing through there would have been mitigated by all the work that's been done at Imperial Estates. Anyway, we're hoping that the board will relook at all this and do something down the road about that. Thank you very much.
Charlie? Are they working?
Okay.
See, Charlie.
Good evening, everyone. First, just as a little quick aside, the first time I ever came here and was aware of it, I got the call from the city and it was pretty new, and that one of the little trees out there had a huge swarm of bees. And at that point, of course, I had a different job. Well, I had a job as an exterminator, and people were getting real nervous about all the bees there. That big old swarm of bees where they'd be parking. So I came down here and I didn't want to kill little honey makers. So I thought for a second, I said, well, going to the school I did, and then I just broke into the Aggie War Hymn. And by the next day, they were all gone. Don't make more honey. Anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the creek. We came back to Texas in 1980, and right away we found our perfect, wonderful home in Friendswood in 1980 on Myrtlewood Drive. And we were concerned about flooding at that point a little bit because we knew the creek was right across the street from our houses, our house road. And we were assured that the creek, this Corps had lots of money. They had done a study and they were going to be taking care of the problem. Well, everything was fine until 2002, Allison, and we flooded badly and got it all repaired. Then in 2017, of course, we got about nearly 4 feet of water and had it totally, really destroyed. So much stuff got repaired. In that little old bit of rain we had in 2020, there were 6 homes flooded. Ours was one of them, and that ripped it. We took the bid, we took the money from the FEMA and moved down the street where we currently are at 1006 Myrtlewood. The thing that we're, I guess, stay upset and scared about is that in 45 years, and first, congratulations on all the great work that's been going on with the retention ponds all around. Really good work. But nobody's ever seriously touched the creek there. It's a problem, an increasing problem. You got all this water thundering down from Missouri and from Harris County. Maybe, and it's acknowledged for decades that it's a pinch point from Dixie Farm to 2351. That's very well established fact. So this water is thundering down at maybe 200,000 gallons a minute or so. All of a sudden, it comes to that plug. From there on down to 2351 or thereabouts, it's like a continuing dam. So as soon as it hits just the other side of Dixie Farm, it's just going off into the neighborhood because there's no way that it will go from 200,000 gallons to 10,000 gallons and keep moving at a decent flow. So everybody up and down our street and also Crawford and Steele is constantly under threat, and many have been flooded, and quite a number of homes Now, the homes in that area range from about 500,000 to a little over a million. And a lot of these homes gone down now. And that's just a huge tax loss for the city as well as misery for the people who lived in those homes. It's just brambles and tree limbs and narrow. And despite all the good work that's been going on in other places, we have never in 45 years seen any good, serious work there. I've even a vestige of cleaning it out. And that's really, I'm here, just please, I implore you to see if you can get something done, and at least clear it out. If you can't block that, I understand all the politics and money involved there. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bruce and Barbara Coder. One.
But we're not on the list to speak unless you've got to hear from me.
No, I don't have to. Okay, they're also at 1104 Myrtle Wood.
We'll refer to these other good speakers.
Okay. Anthony Atkins, 1305 Thomas Drive.
Yeah, I'm here as well. I agree with what my neighbors have said.
Okay, you don't want to speak
I
yet?
don't need to speak.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that concludes the citizens' comments. I wish I would stick around. I know y'all want to run the debate, let's start the debate. So. The meeting shouldn't take a long time, but I'd love for y'all to stick around and hear everything and the comments of the board and everything else that's going on. Peggy is not here, so we'll move on to discussion action items. The Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District Board of Directors called a public hearing regarding the 2024-2025 tax rate. We are going to discuss a rate of 0.1130 to 0.1120. So discussion and action on the 2024 GCD 2024-2025 tax rate. I'm opening the public hearing at 6:17 p.m. Is there anybody who would like to speak regarding tax rate? Discussion at all? Going once? Twice? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing on the tax rate, and I'm going to open it up for, we have a motion for discussion regarding the tax rate.
Motion is yours. Lead the way.
Second?
Second.
Okay. I'm going to,
Excuse me,
go ahead, Jim.
whether the point of order, the budget's next on the agenda.
Oh, you're right. The budget is the next on the agenda. We have the tax rate, Bill. Okay, well, I closed the public hearing on the tax rate, but we are going to discuss the budget first. Thank you, Jim. We'll get back to the tax rate. So, discussion and possible action on the GCDD's 24-25 budget. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Joseph, you want to present the 2024 and 25 budget to us?
Had it in all your packets, and I hope you had time to review this stuff, and Rusty and I went through this numerous times. But we'll just go through the revenue, and I'll have to adjust that revenue number a little bit depending on tonight. But the first column, the accounts 4,000. That is all of our revenue, the tax revenue, the interest income revenue, the fees, and then the regional detention fees. And then if we go down to the next one in the expenses and the 5,100 accounts called personal benefits. In proposing for the 24-25 budget that the retirement contributions be 190,000. The health insurance is 225,000. Workman's comp insurance is 10,000 and unemployment 5,000. And on the backup on the workman's comp, in the 16 years that I've been here, we have not had to file a workman's comp. I'm very proud of our guys on safety, and we've had no lost time in 16 years. You go to the next page, 5,200, it's the professional services. Professional service MS4, that does my stormwater preventions and stuff. That's 28,500. Legal counsel is 25,000. Engineering services is 150,000. Surveying services is 5,000. You might wonder why the surveying is at 5,000, because most of the time the surveying is tied to one of the capital projects that we've got on in the budget as well. Accounting and audit, that's for our annual audit, that's 30,000. Central Appraisal District, that's 58,000. And then the last one is the Baker Road Shared Detention with DDD4. When the pond was dug and constructed and created, back then DD4, they performed the work for the district. And in return, the district gives them 20% of what regional detention that we sell for the year. And that total comes up to 316,500. 5,300 equipment service and maintenance. For heavy equipment, that's a 50,000. Small equipment is 2,500. Trucks, 5,330, that's 45,000. 5,340 is shops, that's 5,000. Tools is 2,000, and the last is field supplies, 2,000, which comes out to be 106,500. Any questions? And if you go to chemicals, it's we've got 500 in there for chemicals. That's like for Roundup or any kind of little weed control for around the office and stuff. Fuel is 45,000. Lubricants is 6,000, and facility maintenance is 35,000. You go to the next page and account 6,000 office operations. 6010 office supplies, that's 7,500. 6020 office support services, that's 25,000. 6030 is communication, that's 15,000. 6040 is postage, 550. 6050 notice and publications and ads is 18,000. And this is where I'm gonna have to change the 6060 insurance and bonds, because I dropped it down to 25, but we need to take it back to 55. And because I just got my bill in for the liabilities and for our insurance for all of our property and equipment. And meeting and meals, 67 meeting and meals is 4,000, which comes out to be $95,050. You go to account 6.
One of the great increase is not much money, but one of the great increase in notice and publications ads.
Because in the future, so we can get more information out to all the residents and stuff of what's going on with the district and stuff.
YouTube cost us anything?
I'd have to get with Derek. If it does, it's very minimal.
I would say for the publications also, if we're gonna be pursuing grants, we're gonna have to put out locations.
Okay. Okay, I just,
And then also we were talking about doing a quarterly newsletter. Does that go there?
Yeah.
it's not a great deal of money, but going from 1,500 to 18,000.
No, that's a good question.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll spend it on, Samantha, Jim made the thing about the grant money, about we wanted to be a little more communicative about some of the things we're going for and why. And there's matches too. So we'll be having to match money for these grants and maybe a 25-75 split, possibly a 50-50 split. And then I think it's some of the things she's going to cover later too in her presentation about what we're trying to go after this year. The money's to help alleviate even so much stuff like barge money or putting in the ramp to get there. And there was one other thing you said today about something that we weren't thinking of, about to save money. It's amazing that the money available, we learned through our core meeting and other things, that is available to get, but you have to really have your stuff in order, where we didn't have the sophistication of the manpower to really do that until Samantha came on board. And it'll take a little bit of a delay, but her experience in dealing with the Corps, working for the Corps, there's a lot of federal money out there. You just have to know how to apply for it. I mean, it's tricky. So
That's good.
we're going to learn a lot this year, but the goal is to save taxpayer money in a 25 or 50% split on things that matter, and not to go after things that don't matter. So we don't pay for it full. So you kind of chip away. You save 20%, 75% here, 50% here, and it allows us to do other projects that we see beneficial that there is not a match for. So that's our angle this year. We'll report back to how that's going as she moves along, and you can cover that in your presentation. Okay, sorry.
All right, 6,500 payroll expenses, 6,510 in salaries. That's 750,000. Overtime is 10,000. And, we overspent that somewhat this year because of Hurricane Beryl. Board salary is 18,000. It's normally 30,000, but two directors elected not to take the pay to be a director. Employee safety recognition, that's 9,000. Payroll taxes is 1,000, and payroll services 1,000. Payroll taxes is 50,000. And the next item, 7,000, support and operating costs. 7010 is uniforms. It's 10,500. And the reason that's a little off from 11 to 10, it's because we changed uniform services. And so there was a different charge for the initial startup with the new uniform company. 7015 clothing, it's 3,500. 7020 is travel and training, it's 3,000. 7030 membership dues and subscription is 3,000. Utility 7040 is 25,000. 7050 support and operating supplies is 6,500. Total 51,500. Capital project. 7,500 capital project. 7511 Clear Creek clearing into snagging, that's 700,000. You go down a little ways, you'll see 7511D, that's a Deepwood project, it's 500,000. A little bit further down, you'll go to 7511H, which is Clearview project, that's 750,000. Chigger Creek is 600,000, and Mary's Creek is 600,000. Further down, you'll go down to Cards Creek and it's 650,000. And the bottom one is for the 7527 general maintenance, and that's 900,000. I know on the Chigger, Mary's, and Cards Creek, we've got numerous bank repairs that we need to make. And along with once we get the interlocal agreements back for, Deepwood, Frenchman's, and Clearview, and once we get everything turned over to Scott and we get our study form, and get our results back, and then that's why I've got money built in there to be able to get that going. And once that gets going, then we can go to construction, whichever one shows the best benefit for us. And hopefully they all show a huge benefit for us. But this way we're getting ready for it. But just to let y'all know, and on Clear Creek, the 700,000, it's money always there because we are always working on Clear Creek, getting trees out, and just different things that we're doing on Clear Creek. And I'll cover that more in my report a little bit later on. But for capital projects, it's 4,700.
If they're for maintenance items, shouldn't be under maintenance instead of capital project?
No, because it's different, because they're going to run into pretty good money, a good amount of money. So that's why I'm putting them under the capital project.
Okay.
That's a quick question. E on Quaker's Landing, so that'll come off capital projects, but then it's not on 8,000.
Yeah, because that is just going under 8010 Clear Creek.
Oh, it joins. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if it would be a separate.
No.
Thanks.
No. And then emergency management operations, we got I'm sorry. Any more questions on the capital? And just remember, this is a working budget. So, like in our next meeting, I'm gonna have to make an amendment to the 23-24 budget to get everything back into alignment, right? And so throughout the year, if we see a project that happens to come up that we can do, and it's a good project, then we can move our money around. That's why this is a working budget. So I just want everyone to understand that. Emergency management operations, that's 3,000. And then we'll get to the 8,000. This year, you'll see that we only spent like a little over 32,000. That's because we're not able to get our spray crew in here. Normally we get them in here 2 times a year. And that's why that number is so low. But then just like, Jason, and like on the watersheds and stuff like Clear Creek and all that, the main ones, that's accompanied with that. And Quakers will go under that. Eventually Clearview will be under that. Deepwood will be under that part. And normally what that is for vegetation controls and for very minor repairs and stuff. And Detention, 8,500, detention pond maintenance. Again, you'll see we haven't spent nothing there this year, and normally in a normal year, we go through 2 to 3 times with vegetation control, and we go through all the ponds, all the detention ponds that we maintain, and all the concrete pilot channels. We go through and clean all the pilot channels at least 2 to 3 times a year. But with the weather this year and stuff, it's been so wet, we haven't been able to do that. 9,000 asset acquisitions. For 90-10 facility improvements, I've got 30,000. 90-20 is land acquisition, I've got 1.2 million. And for 90-30 right of way and easement acquisitions, I've got 400,000. And you'll hear me a lot of times talk about opportunities. So I'm always looking for deals that's along one of our main streams, Marys Creek, Cards Creek, Sugar Creek, Clear Creek, along any of our main arteries, to be able to purchase land to create more detention or offline, inline detention, whatever it takes to do. We're always looking for deals like that. But I'm kind of a hard dealer, so I like to get it cheap. So I try to do a lot of horse trading.
That's a good thing.
If you go to 9,500 capital outlay, 9510 heavy equipment, it's 350,000, and I'll explain that. Scott and I've been, this past year through the end of last year and this year, we spent a little over 500,000 on having a barge here doing the cleanup along Clear Creek, and that was from our south line all the way up to 2351. And Rusty and I talked, and I was kind of against it at first until we started talking more. So Scott and I got involved with it and started getting, Scott thankfully found a guy in Louisiana. But
they're based out of Florida and they have manufactured
in Louisiana. So right now Scott's working with them and they're trying to figure out, and they're going to get us a quote back. But one thing I was against about the barge that was here, it was broken down a lot because it had inboard engines in it. And so this barge will be equipped with 2 outboard engines, and then they'll have 1 inboard to be able to run all the hydraulics and stuff. But my thinking is, we can go up and down the creek 2 or 3 times a year, put a spray rig on it, and I've got a portable spray rig, and spray up and down the creek a couple of times a year. And when we're not using it, if some of the adjacent districts or whatever want to hire us out to come in on anything, and come in on our downtime, the board could elect to do that. And I think it'd be a win-win situation. I really do. And so that's what the 350,000 is. 9520 maintenance equipment, that's 295,000. We have a lot of, is Mr. Morgan still here? Yeah, the honeybees. The honeybees. I'm like him. I don't like to kill them because they're our pollinators. If we don't have them, we don't have food. And so my guys, they try to do an excellent job. And we got John Deere zero turns, open cab. And I've been looking already for a year and a half for some kind of cab zero turn. So I'm wanting to buy it's a zero turn. It's a John Deere that's air conditioned cab, and for the safety of my employees. The other thing is, I was going to wait till my report, but I need to say it here. With all the debris and stuff that we've been taking down for Burl, is that a couple of weeks ago, one of my employees was coming back from Novus Recycling out of Dickinson off of Highway 3. Highway 3 and 646, Tyrell had the green light, so he started going and a truck pulled out in front of him and he T-boned him. Well, my truck's undrivable now, and it's sitting in the yard waiting for insurance to come in to be able to do something, and it looks like the frame is down. So currently what I'm doing, there's a company in San Antonio that's got a semi-brush truck, and it's actually got the drivable little crane on it, because what the guys are doing, they're going along right now and cutting stuff and stacking for us to come and get. But I need to get on it pretty quick. And so like right now, we're up along Myrtlewood and all this stuff, working our way upstream. So that's why it's 295,000. The 185,000 I looked for vehicles to replace 3 vehicles here in the back, and I couldn't find none of the vehicles that would fit the fleet here. So right after this budget's done, I'm gonna start working with them to try to get 3 new vehicles here. 9540 office equipment, and that's for 15,000. That's normally for any kind of computer upgrades, anything like that. So other than that, that's that, unless y'all have any questions.
Excellent.
Questions for him about anything, Jim? No, you've gone through this before.
And just remember, these numbers are gonna change as they always do as the year goes. But it's a working budget, but I'm glad and proud to say this is my 16th budget here. And the first one was very little, and it's grown a lot over the years.
The good news is there's a lot of numbers in here. Kind of like you at the city, Robert, we're not so pressed to stick to the absolute thing. We have a lot of things in here. Jim's saying for a long time, I've seen for a couple of years now, where the money doesn't get spent and we have surpluses. And what we do by working budget, we move things around that capture projects that we didn't see coming, or things that happen between us and the city or the county that get accelerated, or quite frankly, things that get put off that go to the next year. But we have enough capital to move around to accomplish what we need to do to really keep the district running like a top. Joseph's forgotten more about this district than most of us know. And I don't say that lightly. I say that about good coaches and good administrators who've been around a long time. He's always teaching us and showing me different creeks and nooks and crannies that we cover that I even miss in the air. It's pretty amazing. I don't know how you do that, but especially in the Dickinson side. But anyway, we have the ability to capture good opportunities, especially our land acquisitions. We put a pretty healthy budget in that. Jim and I spearheaded some good acquisitions this year, and we're hoping to get some last year. I hope we're to get some this year in this budget, but we have a pretty healthy number of about $500,000 more than we had last year. And we're hoping at the district that we can really run into that type of property, because I can tell you all this, when we run into the type of property, we do a drainage type project that takes water away from the system. And Cement has more on that, but we're looking to reduce the water level here in Friendswood and in our district. And we have good ideas. We just need to find the land and negotiate pricing. So thank you, Joseph, for the work on the budget. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So do I have a motion to adopt the 2024-25 budget that was presented by Mr. Anderson?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? It's my fault. I think y'all set me up on that to do the freaking tax rate thing, and then y'all put it second. I think I were checking I was paying attention. Jim called it. Freaking engineers, man. I tell you what, engineers drive me crazy. Motion to establish the 2024 tax rate of, I'm going to propose 0.1120 per $100 of value for the tax rate. That is a little bit less than what we have to propose an amount, and we can't propose a higher tax rate where we can go down. So my thinking is on this, I just want to let y'all know, is before I get a vote on it, is we're going to be an entity, and I talked to Robert about this earlier, Mr. Griffon, is we're actually going to be the entity in your area that actually gives y'all a little bit of an actual break in what you actually pay. Forget about tax rate. It's what you pay out of your pocket that counts to the taxing entity. A tax decrease only comes with what you pay out of pocket. If you pay more, you have a tax increase. With the appraisals from the GCAD and your assessments going up, even though you get your tax rate decreased, many times it still means more money out of your pocket. Well, we're going to hold that in check this year completely. We're actually going to go backwards just a little bit, unlike any other entity does. And I'm proud to do it. I'm proud of the board if we can get this through. It kind of represents the pain and the strife that everybody else is dealing with in the supermarket. Wages, we're going to have less money on our levy this year, but with the budget that Mr. Anderson's proposed, with us tightening our belt, we're gonna mimic our tax-paying citizens and what y'all are going through this year. So the district's gonna mimic what y'all are going through. We're gonna have less revenue coming in, about $250,000 less possibly. Depends. You never know. We could get a bunch of detention involved, a bunch of permitting. You never know. We're gonna have some revenue. However, we're gonna have probably less, but we're gonna tighten our budget. And believe me, we're gonna serve the people and do a great job. But I'm proud to propose that rate of
Current rate.
0.1120. The current rate, it doesn't even matter. It's 0.12 something, but it doesn't matter. Rate doesn't matter. It's what you pay. And remember, in the water code, it's the median value of the home in the district, the taxing value of the home in the district. So it's the median value. So if you fall below that median value, which is 573,000, I think something before the $50,000, before the exemption that we gave. If you fall below it, you might actually get a little more of a tax decrease. If you fall above it, you actually still might pay a little more because it's based on the median value of the district. But on the median home, they're going to pay a little bit less than they paid last year. I think it's $5. But any decrease is a decrease. Believe me, it's not an increase. And 99.9% of the time, you get increase, stack on increase. So it's kind of like holding it in check for y'all. And we've done a pretty good job here. We're going to try to continue to do that. So my motion is for a tax rate of 0.1120 per $100 evaluation. Do I have a motion? A second?
A second.
All those in favor? Sure.
I want to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
We have reserve that will take care of the shortfall between the revenue generated by this tax rate and our budget. Plus the $3.2 million that we still owe for FM 1950. And that'll bring our reserve down to the bare minimum that we believe is acceptable, which is about $2.3 million, which is roughly 6 months of operating expenses. So that being said, I hope people aren't expecting a tax cut next year. I think that we will have to be very careful. And like you said, watch our P's and Q's and be sure we don't overextend ourselves in the future. Yes.
Can I make a comment, please? I know that this year, we're gonna reflect back to the capital projects on this year. By the time we get our studies done for the people entrenchments, by the time we get that done and everything squared away to see what impacts, what benefits, whatever the best project is, what you think? 6 to 8 months before we get that. So that's why I feel like that would be okay with it going this year. And come next year, yeah, we're gonna have to revisit it and see where we need to be at. And, it might have to be what the actual proposed is at that time, at that, whatever it is at that time. But I do agree with you and I understand your concerns and I appreciate it. But that's why I see us where we can have the room to make this adjustment for this time. Now, I want everybody to understand it. This might not never happen again. It could, but this is a one-time offer. But I just want everybody to understand as we do get projects going, and projects cost money, y'all. When you dig dirt, it costs a lot of money. And so I just want everybody to understand that in the future, we're going to have to think different ways of what we're going to have in the books for capital projects, because those opportunities are going to come. And when they come, I treat the district like my own bank account. If I can't afford it, I don't do it. I save until I can afford it. And I want to be able to have that money when we're able to do it and not have to count on somebody else to help us.
How much money, Joseph, we kicked in on that 3.2 million so far? About 500 grand?
It's a little under 500,000.
So
It's like,
300.
So
no, it's 471,000.
4.6. So we owe about 2.8 on that.
No. 3.1 if we kicked in 400.
With
We're
the-
3.5.
The total was a 3.2, the original.
Yeah.
And we did right at 500,000 payout right now. So 3.1.
Yeah, it's close to it. The thing is, that has to come to also.
There's another issue about that. Right now, the estimate on that project is 19 million, not 32. So how much of that do we get back?
Well,
But the point,
you asked that question in the city too. I agree with that.
but the point I was trying
It's a
to
good
make
question.
is people don't get used to the tax rate being cut. And we need to have enough reserve to take opportunity. And we can only increase our tax rate 8% per year.
Well, remember, not the rate. The people need to get used to the tax rate being cut because you have to cut the tax rate to stay within the 8%. They can't get used to their taxes they're paying going down.
Excuse me.
Right. The tax rate always goes
Our
down.
revenue can only go
Correct.
up 8%.
That's the trick. You can't fall into. Tax rate has to come down because the assessments are so high to stay within. Y'all not didn't get totally fleeced with the water code. If you paid $500 or $1,000 last year, you can only pay 8% more than you pay $1,080, or we're subject to a recall election under the Texas Water Code. So you can't pay out of your pocket more than 8% than you paid last year. And that applies to the median valuation in the districts. Y'all remember that. Median valuation, that's how the water code works. So we have to adjust the tax rate to allow for an 8% increase only. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the key. It's what you pay is what counts. Whatever they paid last year, the median value. So this year, the median value is $500, $580 it's going to end up being. So next year, they can't pay more than 8% over that. And what Jim's saying is we might not be cutting taxes next year again. And I have more to say about that later, so stick around in the comments at the end.
The point with that is it takes a long time to build our reserve back up. It may see an increase per year. So anyway.
And but I have something to say about that from our other side of the district later, so we'll talk about
Anyway,
that.
excuse me for elaborating. I want to point out potential problems with it, but I support it. So
Yeah, we won't have any problems, guys. We're going to do a great job. Joe's going to do a good job, and we're going to tighten it down this year. I think we can handle it, but those are all very good points. We're going to run a nice district, I can promise you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So a lot of this, we can also look at it a different way. As the board changed, so does our direction. We right now have slowed down to do more. We've also invested in our future by bringing on an employee to help us attain funding that we've never had access to previously. So with the success of the impetus we put on how we're going to conduct business, and with the success of our change in direction as far as funding and partnerships with adjoining areas, this may work out really well for us. If not, we adjust accordingly at the end of the year. I think we can obviously, with our current reserve, we're well beyond 90, the 90-day operating when we spoke earlier. So I just think we're headed the right way. I like what we're doing.
If it doesn't work good, we'll adjust, and I'll report back to y'all. I'll say, hey, it's a big failure. It didn't work. We tried to get too lean. We got too lean. Now we have to beef up a little bit, and I'll let y'all know. And I'll say, okay, so the capital projects this year, we're going to do this, and we're going to defer some to the next year. I'll just be honest with y'all and tell you, I think we're going to be able to lean it down, take less revenue, and keep rolling. Joseph believes that. I believe I got convinced Director Gibson of that because I believe it to be the truth, the honest to God truth. I think we're going to be just fine. I think the opportunities are going to line up. I already talked about some of our budget. We hardly ever get to spend and do every capital project we want to. The weather always seems to catch us. We have breakdowns. We are going to do things a little bit different in studying and making sure we're doing projects that reduce the water surface elevation where we do them, or we're probably not going to do them. Samantha has some other ideas she's come up with. So yes, sir. There's different directions we're moving. And once again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sometimes I'll say I was wrong, but I think we're going to be good. Yes,
We'll
sir.
just add one thing.
Yes, sir.
Next year too, Mr. Gibson, is that when League City gets more and more residents.
You're still on thunder.
I'm sorry. We're actually gonna get more. And so I just want everybody to understand, but also I'll reiterate, this could be a one-time deal because it costs money to do projects and run this district. Sorry, Rusty.
Yes, sir. Councilman
I
Fun.
just have one quick question. Did you have extraordinary expenses due to Beryl that you weren't planning for in the 23-24 budget?
I have-
That you had expenditures that, I know the city did to the tune of 5 million.
I have money built into the budget or
Okay,
anything like that. I do have built in as a rainy day fund. And I'm always big on a rainy day fund, just in case if it's.
fortunately, sure, act of God, something happened,
Yes.
like the freeze was terrible.
Right.
And the Beryl, of course, put a ton of debris all over Friendswood and all over your creeks. I was just wondering if you had any extraordinary expenses. Does the board have the ability to raise emergency funds in case their funding in the budget does not cover?
Through our investment committee meetings, that's when we determine that, how much we want in that.
Okay.
I had a question that Robert is.
You're getting.
I think we need to stay back on
I think.
the agenda.
Yeah.
We should have done this during the, it's me, I tried to that open meeting. I couldn't get anybody to say anything.
I think we're still,
And that-
I do hear a motion in a second, so maybe.
In years together.
Claim the business.
Okay, so to restate the motion and the second, it was to establish the 2024-25 tax rate at 0.1120 for $100 evaluation. I had a motion, I made a motion, I had a second from Kim. So all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all. And thanks for giving us a chance, and we're gonna perform. I promise you. Discussion.
1 second, President. I have this sheet that I need everyone's signature on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Discussion and C, discussion and possible action on Goodwin Estates final plat, co-serve and mapping. Motion for discussion.
Motion.
Scott, anything on this?
It's a, so this project is able to go through our binder plat process or straight to final plat. So it's just a single lot subdivision, residential subdivision. And, we reviewed it, it is in compliance with board's criteria for a final plat. And we have received a letter of no objection from the city as well.
Any questions from the board? Scott? Scott, we haven't received the drainage plan, correct?
Correct.
But we will be receiving that.
Yeah, when they decide to develop it.
Attachment four.
Or attachment 4, yes, because that'll fit under your
I
attachment.
mean, I would think that's when y'all have more questions, but any questions for Scott on that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7, the consent agenda, approval of the September 10th, 2024 bills.
Do we need the?
There's a D.
You guys make a vote.
What does? I'm skipping everything. Sorry, I'm gonna back up again.
I know.
I'm gonna point of order myself. Skipping everything today.
You wanted to table today.
D, discussion possible action updating the, and we should have talked about this, the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District Hazard Mitigation Plan. Do I have a motion to discuss? Make that motion. Second. Why don't you explain this, what's going on here, Joseph, and what we're updating?
Yeah, first of all, back in 2014, I had Jeff Ward come in, and it was through a grant at that time as well. So, and we had a hazardous mitigation plan put together. Thus then it expired in 2018, and I didn't realize that it expired, to be honest with you. But every so many years, you got to update and redo your hazardous mitigation plan. What that helps you do is like FEMA money, reimbursements, grants, any kind of grant money and stuff. It's tied to the hazardous mitigation plan. Samantha and I were contacted by BDD4 about maybe piggybacking on theirs. But after Samantha helped him with stuff, that wasn't a viable way to go.
We're gonna be a stakeholder, but there's new guidance that came out, I think in 2023. And one of the things is that you're really supposed to do it for your own entity. I mean, it'll be better anyways if we do our own.
And you know, and the hazardous mitigation plan, it could be $150,000 to $200,000.
Yeah.
Right? But there's grants out there that Samantha's gonna go to, and it's normally, correct me if I'm wrong, the 75-25 match. And so that money will be, you know, we'll spend it now, but later we'll recoup it as well. And it's something good to have. And then we can stay on it. Samantha, thank goodness I have her with me now, because then we can stay on it when it's time to start updating and stuff. We can update it and have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're capable of doing it in-house, but for example, when I was on the call with BDD for Brazoria County, and they're a lot bigger than us, but they just updated theirs and it was 500 and something pages. You have to go through and for not just flooding, but all hazards, you have to identify whether it would impact your entity and then, you know, how you would react to that. And there's a portion now where you have to reach out to socially vulnerable communities, and I think it's mandatory to incorporate climate change language based on that 2023 guidance. But so one of the things, if we do not have an updated hazard mitigation plan, we can't pursue grants, but if we're in the middle of updating it, we can. So one of the things I was really hoping that the board could discuss is whether you are interested in pursuing that now through funds that we have, you know, contracting it out, or whether it's something that we want to pursue a grant for. Because funding wise, the money, there's a couple different grants coming out, or well, they're opening. The application period is opening in November, December timeframe. And from there, it would probably be at least a year before we were notified whether we received, you know, the funding, and then a little more of a waiting to receive the funding. So from that time until we were at least notified that we were awarded that funding, we really wouldn't be able to apply for any other grants. So just to keep in mind, if they're federally or state funded.
So you're saying that we need to get going. It's been out of date since 2018 somehow, correct? And we need to get going on taking action to update it, because if we do not, we won't be eligible for any grant money.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Maybe not. No, I wouldn't say. Well, there's local partnership programs that, you know, are local grants, like the HTAC, for instance. You know, they sometimes do planning studies. We would still be able to work with the Corps, but yeah. But as far as federal or state grants, they typically request a hazard mitigation application, and unfortunately, I checked, we're not included in the Galveston County one, so we cannot use that one.
What is the cost of the revised study?
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
So we're supposed to redo it every 5 years. If we get a real good one done now, can we update it in 5 years in-house?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I definitely think we could do that. It's a lot of it is just because we have, we're working on some other things in-house at the moment. And that's a big job.
Is the one from 18 so out of date that it's not updatable to get us where we need to be and save some money?
We can look at it and see. We'll have to
Yeah.
get with the firm that's gonna do it for us and get their input on it. So I don't hear some of the stuff could probably be used.
It would have expired in 23 if you did for 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's a good question.
It is
Well,
a good question.
It expired in 18.
Expired.
no, it expired in 18 or 23.
No, it expired in 8.
Yeah, in 2018.
Well,
That's what I'm saying, but has the district and the mitigation changed so much, our hazard plans, that it's not updatable? Is it gonna cost, I mean, y'all are giving that's a big
So
spread.
I would.
100 to
think that a lot of it
250,000 is a
would be-
big spread.
Yeah, I would think that a lot of it would be like we could use on it or build on it. There's just a couple of those. I mean, we'd have to look and see what has changed in the guidance since 2018. Yes, I know for sure that there's there's like a climate change component you have to look at, and then we have to do an additional amount of outreach. But like part of it is you build stakeholder committees and like an internal committee and go through looking at these different hazards and coming up with actions. So it's just, yeah. I
Joseph,
think a lot of it, I think a lot of the document itself, we could probably reuse, or if there's exhibits, I would think we could reuse those if they're still available.
So we talked about this a little bit. I mean, when it first came up, it just got brought to the attention and put on the agenda. If just hypothetically, if we waited one more month into October, is it going to be significant? So y'all can explore if it's possible to maybe not outsource this thing and spend 100 to 200, 250,000. And if we can find out if our old mitigation plan can be updated. I don't want to pile more on and take away from current work, and especially what you're going to talk about here later. That's a significant savings. If we can, I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be expired, but it is. It is what it is. We're the board now. We got to deal with the reality of the situation. We have to get updated so we can be up to speed on all grant applications. So if the board, I want the board to ask questions on this. If y'all think we should find out this month, get clarification on budget savings on this. That's kind of my area. I'd like to see if we can save some money and maybe update the old plan and not spend all that.
If there's a firm that you're already thinking of using, can they not do like a preliminary?
Well, my original was Jeff Ward, and I know Jeff pretty well, and I can reach out to Jeff and just see.
That would be my initial thought. I know.
And then, so would you have a problem with tabling this until the October meeting? I think that'd be a wise idea, and I'll reach out to Jeff Ward. I know him pretty well, and he's the one that did the original, and he can tell me, yeah, we can use parts of it. And
let me ask a question. Is he is this like an opinion you get from a lawyer? Or is
no,
it
he's
program?
the actual engineer they're the actual writers that developed the hazardous mitigation plan.
The city of Brunswick uses Jeff Ford for a lot of their grant management.
So he's recognizable.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Yes, sir.
Did you say we could apply for federal money if we're in the process of revising it? So I think that's the answer. Table it till October, look and see if we revise it.
I mean,
We shouldn't hold anything up.
It seems like we're definitely doing this. It just seems like it's a function of money and the best path forward. Is that seem right? I mean,
Yeah.
If you're not telling us this is critical, absolutely right now, we can wait 1 month and ferret out the best way forward. I think that's what I would prefer to do.
I'll get with Jeff and I'll send over the hazardous mitigation plan and see what we need to do and go from there then.
So,
And Samantha, and sit down, Scott, if you want to be involved, you can too as well.
so I'm gonna make a motion. My motion is that we table the possible action on updating the hazard mitigation plan until our next meeting in October, where we can decide the course of action at that time.
So
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Consent agenda, the approval of the September 10th, 2024 bills and the approval of the August 13th, 2024 minutes. Has everybody looked over that?
Yes.
It's pretty good. Samantha, did you do those?
Yes.
You looked those? Like that.
I do too.
Okay.
The only thing I want to address on the minutes is that Burkett doesn't have an E on the end of it, and it's in there quite a bit. So just FYI, and it's Burkett, not Burkett. So just for everybody's clarification, to make sure that we say it correctly.
You know what we did it? See if you're paying attention.
Hey, I was.
You guys prepare all things over. Take care.
Anyway.
They put the easy ones in there so you don't find the big ones.
Well, I did go through and read it though. I mean, I'm like,
We need to vote.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Oh, I need a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, operational managers report. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, with the latest rain and stuff, our dirt work crews have been slowed down. Hopefully they'll get back to work starting tomorrow, Thursday. Mowing crews, same way. They started back to mowing this week. Still playing catch up, so we'll probably go back on 10 hours a day starting tomorrow with our guys and our contractors playing catch up.
5 10s and an 8 or just?
Yeah, 5 10s and 8. And like I said, our brush truck is down for right now, so I'm looking at being able to get a rental in here. And it's around $7,000 a month. So it's a big hit, but it is what it is. Up on Myrtlewood, they moved in, they're starting to get stuff out of Myrtlewood. And then on the old channel, we got very limited easements there. What we have none. But I have one property owner that's willing to let me go into this property. So once we get up to that area, I'm gonna get the contractors in and try to get as much as I can down, but it's gonna be lots of handwork there because of the limited space. But we are moving in that direction. And just like I said earlier through the budget, thank y'all for supporting my budget. It's my 16 one to do. And one other thing I want to talk a little bit about, and I'm clear on Dickinson Bayou. I want to give a little background on Dickinson Bayou of what the district has done, not just in 23 years, but my longest employee that's been here is Mr. Joe Royster, and he's my right hand. If you look at him, you see the district. He is the district. He's been here 43 years, y'all. September the 21st of this year, he'll be here 43 years. He knows the ins and outs of everything of this district. And there's been questions on Dickinson Bayou of what type of maintenance do we perform? What do we do there? What do we don't do there? Well, I'm going to give a little history lesson here. In my 16 years, maintenance on the following creeks, in this country, following creeks is going to be Coyote Creek, your ditch, Lundy Ditch, Box Ditch, Madera Ditch, Dickinson Bayou bypass, and I did the Girl Scout camp, but that is where the main stream runs through. The maintenance consists of all the mowing, and that could be 3 to 4, even up to 5 times a year. And this is probably approximately 80, 90 miles of creek. Vegetation control, coming through and spraying, and being able to keep control of the vegetation. Any kind of slope failures, any kind of repairs, that. Clearing, we're going to talk about clearing. Years ago in 2014, I think there's a plaque out there. I forget what the date is already, but I worked with the Girl Scout camp. There's 99 acres out there off of McFarland Road. Beautiful, beautiful piece of property. And they're very, very protective about who comes on the property and who not. But I worked with the San Jacinto Girl Scouts. And I was able to go in, and not just me, I don't like but the district was able to go in, and we were able to acquire the easement all the way through the Girl Scout camp. And by doing that, we were able to go in and do a lot of clearing, reshaping of the banks and stuff. And at that time, and still, we were very good partners with the Girl Scout camp. And you can look out there, I'm proud of the award that we got out there. And due to all the development, you can imagine they could have 300 to 400 Girl Scouts out there. And it was the coolest thing. They had teepees out there and everything for them to enjoy. And, but as development has took over, it's pushing them out. And what I understand, the 99 acres has been sold. So that's a sad part about it. But, and back in 2010, there was an old sand pit over there off of Lago Lane, a little over 71 acres. And approached the property owner of the district, and I did, and started negotiating. And we ended up buying the property after we did our phase 1 and 2 environmental studies on it. On this 71 acres, we were able to construct a regional detention pond on Madera Ditch, which feeds into the main artery of Dickinson Bayou. We were able to construct and implement a 620 acre feet detention facility there for that area. At that time, we were getting roughly $120,000 in tax revenue from the Dickinson Bayou area at that point. At that time, Galveston County reached out and partnered up with us. Galveston County ended up contributing $1,902,155. League City, and they had contributed $172,924. The district ourselves, we ended up contributing $531,505. And the district oversaw the project throughout start to finish. Total cost of the project, I'm glad everybody's sitting down, because if we could do this at this cost this time of the year, we'd be lucky. It's a little over 2.6 million for 620 acre feet of storage, which is huge. Imagine a project like that today would be 19, 20, 25 million. But I just wanted to give a little history on what has been done and what we do, and we continue doing this out there. And yeah, we got more to do and stuff, but you know, I just want to bring everybody, because everybody hears Clear Creek watershed. But I want to give a little history and a little background of the Dickinson Bayou, because a lot of Friendswood residents, they have no idea that we've got a jurisdiction that goes out to League City along the Dickinson Bayous and all them tributaries.
And it impacts Dickinson.
Yeah, greatly.
But that's all I have, unless y'all have any other questions. But I wanted to share that with y'all tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Chase Curry would be here, now he had a minor procedure, but he's gonna appreciate that.
Yeah.
The Dixon Assistant City Manager, he's gonna appreciate that. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you very well.
And I want to follow up a little bit more on my board minutes later. Let's move on. Number 10, District Engineers Report, and he'll also give a summary of the.
Oh, you forgot Miss Kathy.
Miss Kathy, I'm sorry, Miss Kathy, I forgot you. I need glasses today. I think Paige wore me out today in our meeting. I don't think I think anymore. Number 9, the Administrative Managers Report.
I just wanted to report that we're nearing the end of this fiscal year, September 30th. And we met with the auditors today, the auditor, and we'll start the audit January 1st, back after the first of the year. And we sent some flowers, Joseph's family, from the district. And the microphones are on order to be installed. That's all.
Thanks, Kathy.
I will tell you something. I think that's Kathy's favorite time of the year when the audit comes. She just cannot wait.
She waits all year.
And I want to thank y'all too. And I know the funeral hasn't been yet, but thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
Number 10, District Engineers Report. Scott.
We've got one preliminary plat that's been approved at staff level. Falls wedding venue that's going to go just back west of Rancho Viejo here. So you can see the vicinity map here, right? So we're sitting down over here, right? And that's this location. They will be submitting a drainage plan as well for that. But that was approved at staff level for the preliminary plat. So once the city approves, they're going to consider the preliminary plat Thursday. The final plat will be submitted, and then to both the city and the drainage district then, and along with the drainage plan. So that's the only preliminary plan plat that's actually been approved. We have reviewed others. They're just in the process of addressing comments and making sure that they pacified and pieces properly. So back to the barge, we've worked kind of worked down through several different iterations with trying to stay local with Boatwright Marine. Didn't work out. They didn't feel comfortable building that the unit that the district desires to have. So we kind of went out towards Beaumont, Port Arthur, talked to some of the larger barge companies that, that you see on intercoastal waterways and in the bays and everything. They couldn't scale down to that. And we finally found Barge Works, and they are based out of Florida. Basically, our need is why they got into the market. They understood that there's a niche there that was, was missing support. So they do this every day. Ed Sheets is the owner of the company, and he contacted me today to give me an update. He's close. He's trying to chase down a manufacturer that actually has a whole unit with the grapple and the saw combo on it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to have to modify and have it as an attachment, like a quick attach right now. So they're basically going to purchase a small track hoe and then have to modify the base. Take the cab off, mount it on the front of a barge, and then get a grappler or a grapple with a saw attachment for it. So that's where we're at.
So we'll have no tracks but a turntable?
Yeah, it'll just be a turntable. They tried to talk me into just putting the track hoe on there, and I said I don't think we want to deal with that. They want to even,
It'll be stable.
Yeah,
Real stable.
So it's 14 by 40 is what we're looking at right now. It'll come with a trailer, and obviously you have to work with the police department to go back and forth, and
We just hauled it tonight.
you can say that in public.
Get recorded.
Or really early, right? Before everybody wakes up.
We're the wine capital of the world here.
But it is exciting to have it. To have that unit. I think it'll save the district money, and you'll be able to, after an event, once you install the boat launch, you'll be able to get in there and make sure the creeks are clear and ready to go, right? After a hurricane or a major event.
And one thing that Scott and I were talking about is also what kind of license do we have, to register through the Coast Guard stuff or whatever. And then if we're gonna have to have a captain's license.
He's asking if you're gonna cross-train board members to operate it.
I was wondering if there was gonna be a road trip to go pick it up.
We have to go visit when it's getting built, but they will deliver it. That'll be part of their.
Sure, we can get an old school bus.
That is one thing that Scott and I are, and those board members are sure, but we'll have to go there probably at least once or twice.
So luckily, so they have a facility in Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana that they construct into. So they work all over the United States, right? I mean, they don't work over, but their product goes all over to all these different districts like us or any kind of entity, government entities that are managing parks that have a need for it. So.
It's gonna be sweet. I'll look forward to reporting to everybody on that. It's gonna be. You have any questions for Scott? Well, Jim, you're an engineer. I know you have some questions on the barge. Come on, I know you have to have a barge question.
It only takes 8 inches it only drafts 8 inches.
I'm gonna just drive a backhoe on it in time.
Yeah.
And I got
You
something
definitely do that.
finished.
It just makes me nervous having that ability for it to roll.
And I wanted to touch base what Jim just said about, before I got here, they tried that on a barge with a regular track hoe on it, and they almost lost some lives. Because it takes a lot of skill to be able to, with the buoyancy and all the flotation and stuff, and when you grab something, you're gonna go whichever way that weight's gonna go, and the track hoe actually slid off.
Oh, no.
I got an old friend that ended up at the bottom of the San Jacinto River right there at Channel View. 10 feet of silt, took him 4 days to get him out of there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
not a good idea.
We'll probably get it put on there. I think that's good.
Yeah, and they got they're gonna have large holes in 4 corners. So we could put the stakes that comes with the pins, basically. So
Studs.
Studs. If it's something really large, we're trying to do to stabilize it, keep the barge from rolling. So
That'd be a good service to the citizens. I mean, that way we can run up and down the creek 2 or 3 times a year. And after every major storm event, we have some new drone technology stuff that she might be talking about that A&M and Brody's going to do to maybe help us with the desilting stuff. So we're thinking of new things and we're moving forward with ideas. And actually, it'll be less expensive than just renting the barge for 2 or 3 months like we did. So thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. All right, this is the one you want me to skip.
I did have one question.
Go, let's go. I knew you did.
He was excited. This would be.
I knew you did.
Would it be possible to put jacks on the barge where you wouldn't have to use the motors to keep it in position?
No, they have the spuds. So you're talking about like a power pole, like a self.
Power pole, now you're talking engine stuff.
Talking about the boat.
I'm gonna talk a little bit on it. On the one that the contractors had here, they had the spuds, but the only time they used the spuds was when they were actually docked. And normally what you do, you use the engine power to be able to hold you up against the bank and stuff, to be able to grab and do what work you need to do and put that onto the barge.
How many people crew?
A 2-person, one to run
One
the.
operator.
2-person, and then at the staging areas, you'll have one excavator operator, one truck driver hauling off.
Thank you.
See, they're throwing me off tonight. That's the key. They got it all. This might
Have a need or
be low blood sugar.
Oh.
That's right. All right,
And make sure.
number 11. This is the one we can skip, save some time. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we cannot.
If you want to.
No. Chief Operating Officer and Financial Procurement Partnerships and Strategic Planning Report, Samantha Harris.
I'm gonna try and go through this really quick. Good evening, Samantha Harris. Excited to be here. I'm just gonna jump right into this. So go ahead and flip. So the two things I'm really gonna cover are the board had some discussion about stream gauges, and specifically we're interested in being able to look at flow on the CFS coming down the creek. And then also we've had some discussion on looking at our flood and development standards, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more after the stream gauges. So starting with the stream gauges, I'm not sure if everybody knows. I know several people are aware. You can flip it. Harris County Flood Control District has several stream gauges on their system right now. The link to their system is at the bottom. The city of Friendswood has worked to get several of the gauges that are in the city of Friendswood area. Recently, League City worked together to do 6 gauges down in their location, and I saw that some of the surrounding Galveston County drainage districts, and I can't remember. I think it was DDD1 and DDD2. I think I saw both of them had a gauge. But so they've been working with Harris County Flood Control District to get gauges on their system, because there's not a Galveston County wide system. And the Harris County is basically doing it as a favor when entities reach out and ask. So if you can go ahead and flip to the next slide. So the Harris County flood warning system, there's 10 stream gauges that are within our jurisdiction. They look at precipitation and stream level. So they don't typically, especially for jurisdictions outside of Harris County Flood Control District, they don't typically do flow. I reached out to them. They said that they would be willing to look into adding flow gauges, but wherever we have tidal influence, they're not going to be accurate enough for that. And in fact, they really don't want to mess with that at all. So we'd be looking at, we'd be able to put flow gauges pretty much at the upstream boundary on the different tributaries. So like, right. I mean, there's existing gauges, it's several of them, but it would be basically adding a gauge. But back to just what is available on their system. You can sign up for alerts. You can do it specific to any of the gauges. If you go in and look at the gauges, there's a historic flooding event. At some of the gauges, they have bridges marked. It's a really great resource, and but they don't have flow. So going to the next slide. So development upstream contributes to flooding downstream for large storms. We're seeing increased flow over time. And one of the purposes of looking into a gauge system would be to look at adding the capability to look at flow, not only upstream, but also throughout our streams. Another thing is these gauge systems can get, and Harris County Flood Control, they've started doing some flood forecasting with theirs. I think Hurricane Harvey was the first time they started doing it. You can get down to the street level, and the costs can really get out there. So I worked on putting costs together for 4 different alternatives just initially. One was just working with Harris County Flood Control District, and at the along basically the boundary between Pearland and Brunswick, along our streams. I can go back to it, but I think there's 7 locations. It would be adding just a flow gauge. And then another option would be USGS. USGS, their gauges are the most expensive, but they have I'm sure you've been onto the USGS with them. You can go individually and pull all kinds of data. They're very reliable, and it's probably the most reliable method you're going to get to actually get flow data, not only because of the system that they put in, but also because of the calibration techniques that they use. They're very extensive, and they're routinely going in there and doing that. Okay, and then the alert system. I looked at 2 different methods if we were to do a completely in-house gauge system. The alert system, that's actually the system that Harris County Flood Control District uses to house a lot of their data. I have not seen much in relation to flow gauges on that system, but I'm keeping it on there because it's a cheaper possibility. The gauges that they use are the radar gauges that shoot at the surface. It's not going to be like USGS level where they go through and you're getting, it's not like it's just surface water. We're getting flow. It's not going to be going down and measuring, at a depth down to the middle or to the bottom of the creek. And then Hydromet is, I think there was some interest in LCRA. So I believe that's them that they use, and it does look pretty cool, but it is also a lot more expensive. However, so go ahead into these. So with Harris County Flood Control, their flood warning system, this is the only one that has 7 gauges, and that's just because I was looking at putting them at the upstream portion of our creeks, because they can't put them further downstream due to the tidal influence. So the flow gauges may not work well in tidal areas. They said they have not done a lot of work on flow. So, oh, sure.
So I know so inbound and outbound flow rate into the district, out of the district is something that would really be important to us. I know you can't do depth, but we do know the mean water surface level at certain points. So then could we not measure above mean and flow and then get the data we want?
So the problem is going to be for these storms where you've got the tidal influence coming in, it's just going to be a big.
Yeah, I know you've got.
If you're just shooting at the surface.
Yeah, because it's not just, I know it's not laminar or flow, right? So I know that you can take tidal data and the basic storm data, but I know LCRA does it a lot that way, but they have no tidal influence.
The Hydromet system's pretty involved. That's a really good system.
I can see that.
Okay,
So let me get into that. Let me get into that a little more. Okay, so for the initial installation cost, that's basically the installation cost at this moment in time, and the yearly maintenance cost, that's like per this year. I went so where it says the net cost over 10 years, I assumed that this is a little bit high probably, but because of recent inflation that we've seen, it scares me to not be really conservative. But I did like a 10%, and I did a 10% increase per year for inflation. And then I also assumed that that, every 10 years, so this is for so for every 10 years, we would have to completely replace all the gauges. And that's probably, that's looking back at historically what we've seen about every 10 to 15 years, we have a big storm. And for Harris County Flood Control District, that's about when you would get it all wiped out. Now, you wouldn't, in practice, buy all those gauges at the same point. You wouldn't want to wait to buy them. You would want to bring, buy 1 or 2 spares a year and have somewhere to house them. Because everybody and their mom is going to want spare gauges right after storm hits and none of the gauges are working, if that makes sense. But okay, so anyhow, so for Harris County Flood Control District, for 7 gauges, it'd be about $105,000 to do the flow meters that just shoot to the surface. It's about $53,900. They would do an interlocal agreement. And I'm just guessing based on that 10% inflation per year, and then estimating that all the gauges would have to be replaced, what it would be over a 10-year life cycle and a 20-year life cycle. And if we don't keep seeing above record inflation, it's probably more like a 5% inflation. So I don't think this is pretty conservative. Then USGS, they are.
Win the election, 10%.
USGS is very expensive. That would probably not be the method I would recommend. The Alert 2 system, that's, like I said, that's the same system that Harris County Flood Control District is using. One of the cool things about that system is that it doesn't matter if you install 1 gauge or 1,000 gauges, the upfront cost for the system is the same and it's relatively inexpensive. But so basically the difference between the costs on the bottom 2, where we'd have it in-house, those costs also include, you would have to have the computer software, and you would have to have a maintenance tech who would go out and calibrate these gauges. And then you would also likely have somebody who would in-house handle GIS system for the gauge infrastructure. Joseph, you look like you have questions.
I'm just thinking with the gauges. Once we collect the data, what are we gonna do with the data? What are we gonna get out of the data?
As soon as I just wrote, what is the real application of the data?
Right.
I mean,
Systems, the point is, and we talked about this, there are so many public agencies that have invested the money for a gauge system, and then a change in, council or the board will come in and they decide that they don't want to fund the maintenance anymore. And so the whole thing it has to be something that you're really interested in, not just, I think, to measure flow at one point, but also to build out over time and really use as a flood warning system when people are driving around. I think if we were to go that route where we did a system, we would want to reach out to these other, at least Drainage District 1 and Drainage District 2, and talk to them about partnering, if not reaching out to all the other agencies on the Galveston County side to see if it's something bigger. Now, for the initial installation costs, there are grants available. I believe when we talked to the Corps, that possibly you can get the entire installation funded. I've seen the Texas Water Development Board, if you were to get the project in their state flood plan, they will fund flood warning, just the initial installation costs pretty well, but you're really going to be stuck with the yearly maintenance costs. I don't know. I guess what do y'all want to discuss? Or just keep it forward?
Keep them.
Okay, next. Okay, so consideration of enhanced flood standards. You can flip it to the next. So, this is, I used Rusty's term, urban creep, because I think it's a good term for it. But basically, what you see is when over time you are adding fill in the floodway or in the floodplain, it causes the water to move in all different ways. And so, the floodplain that you may initially have had, back in 2010, by the time you have lots of development, it keeps extending outward. And I think that's what Rusty is conveying when he refers to creep. So you can go to the next slide. So why would we need to revisit drainage standards? So I'm not talking about climate change here. I'm simply going by gauge data. If you go pull a historic gauge data from multiple places in the, like Galveston Bay or down at Corpus, over the last 100 years, there's steadily been sea level rise. And Galveston in particular has seen 2 feet of sea level rise over 100 years, whereas the global average is only 8 inches. So that's pretty significant. And this chart, this just shows like a low, medium, and high estimate of sea level rise. And I'm going to get to it like on this later slide, but one thing to keep in mind is that the upcoming, so we just, a lot of the communities around here, including Harris County Flood Control District, we just recently adopted 2014, Atlas 14, sorry, not 2014, Atlas 14. Well, they're already studying Atlas 15. It's supposed to come out in 2027. My guess is it may be a little further out than that, but they are including climate change. Another thing, recently, the federal government put out guidance, and I'm blanking on the exact name. It's like BRIMS, but they look at different ways to that they're trying to enhance standards, and the preferred method is to actually include a climate change scenario. But so back to this, sea level rise is increasing. We are tidally influenced, so it's just something we need to consider. Next slide. The effects of urban development. So I pulled some different quotes here from a variety of different studies, but Friendswood's had a lot of population growth, but really we're concerned about the population growth within the entire watershed, not just Friendswood. And a lot of what we're seeing is the population growth that's coming from upstream. So anytime you have urban development, it enhances. Okay, so the first quote: urban rainfall modification enhances rainfall by 18% downwind, 16% over the city, 2% to the left, 1% to the right. This was from a study on the city of Houston. So basically, it's just showing with urban development, it's basically increasing the rainfall. But standards were only recently updated. Yeah, I said that. As the percent impervious surface cover increases 10 to 20%, runoff increases twofold. I thought that was a pretty interesting statistic. So there's lots of studies out there. Urban development does increase runoff. The next, and we have a lot of development that's occurred upstream, especially in a short period of time. And it's continuing to this day. We have changing precipitation. We've seen that over the last 30 or 40 years. We're having more frequent storms with higher intensity. We've actually seen more storms that are lasting more than a day, like 2 days or 3 days. And the standards that we have now don't look at multi-day storms. They all look at a 24-hour storm. So is this something that we need to be looking at? Because Claudette, Allison, and Harvey were all I think multi-day storm, but we're having a lot of multi-day storms, and they're significantly impacting our jurisdiction. Yeah, so events with longer return periods are expected to change the most. You can go to the next one. So this just kind of shows, this is across the nation. Every year, the amount of flood damages is going up drastically. Next one. And then this looks at named cyclones from 1991 to 2020. And you can see that there's more, named storms, going above that top line, which is an annual count of 15, you know, in the more recent decades. Okay, so next,
Wait, what was that study from? National,
this was from NOAA.
No.
I'm trying to read the top letter.
Looks
I
like
can
no.
send this to you if you'd
Yeah.
like. Okay, so and then one of the things that I didn't put this in here, but one of the things that were the engineers with it that all of us have been doing is we're consistently designing for the past. And a lot of the flood maps we use are outdated. And we really need to start thinking about what the future scenario is going to be, because we want the structure to be built for the design period that it's intended to be there. So if it's like a 30-year design period, well, then we really should be looking at what are the expected conditions 30 years from now. So what we're going to do, we're going to do 3 different studies. The first one, we're doing a look across the nation on communities that have been enacted higher floodplain standards, just looking at what they're doing, why they're doing it, if those communities have similarities to our community. Just trying to get a look at the trends. We're going to do a statistical analysis of storm events and trends going back to the 1950s, including these recent storms that we've had, and look at them from several different perspectives, from the 24-hour precipitation, looking at the multi-day storms, and then also looking at we've had a lot more combined storms in the last couple of years. We don't typically look at surge impacts at all when we're designing, and maybe that's something that needs to be considered. And then lastly, we're going to do, and with this one, we may end up partnering with some research organizations just to try to accelerate things. I think that we've had some discussions about this. But looking at doing a hydrologic and hydraulic study of changing land use and impervious cover impacts. So taking the watershed back from 1950 and looking at what the land use was and the impervious cover at that time, keeping river conditions the same, and just seeing, if we have today versus then the impervious cover, how does that affect runoff? How does that affect the creek? And then forecasting fully developed conditions out. So, and again, looking at what the impact of that is. And so then once we have those, and also while at the same time, Scott's going to be assisting with us, and Joseph, we're going to be reviewing our standards and trying to make good sound judgments, but we really want input from the surrounding communities, and we because we need every community in the watershed. And then one other thing of note is we plan to look at both the Clear Creek and the Dickinson watersheds, but probably looking at those separately, because we understand that there are different conditions for both of the watersheds. So next.
Hear that, but
This just goes into, so Atlas 15 is due out in 2027. They're incorporating climate change. The new flood risk management standard requires enhanced standards for federally funded projects. Climate change scenarios are the preferred method. The International Code Council Building Codes will incorporate climate change by 2030. In other words, these changes are coming, and so we might as well be on the forefront of it and help our citizens, help protect them sooner rather than kind of the approach. And then the other thing is, we're really questioning, are all these flood control projects that we're doing, are they really making a difference? Are the effects of the development so high that all of the flood control projects we're doing are not even really making a difference? Really trying to analyze that. So.
Awesome.
Last thing, so we've been talking internally a lot about the sponge city concept. This is something that originated out of China. So the concept is basically in China, in their urban areas, they were having a lot of flooding, and they're built densely together. So what could they do? So they started putting in impervious cover and green spaces everywhere they could. And so the thought is, if we look at, and it may seem outside of the box, but there are internationally, there are several different communities that are really latching on to this as a concept, and sometimes incorporating it with the typical the structural infrastructure solutions, kind of a gray green method. But if we were to go and replace all of our sidewalks with impervious cover, what type of effect would that have? If we were to change all the roofs in our entire jurisdiction to green roofs, what kind of impact would that have? Those are kind of long-term questions that we have, but in the short term, we would like to try to incorporate this concept when we do a project at Frenchman's Creek. And so we're talking about how we're going to approach going about that at the moment. So I just wanted to bring that up and kind of start the education process on that. And if you've never looked up Sponge City concepts on YouTube, I highly encourage you to do it. It's pretty cool.
So for Frenchman's Creek, where you wrap up, or something like that, just something that's already maybe in a neighborhood or somewhere in the city, Robert, where it's important for, things to look nice. We want to do a contrast and comparison of traditional detention and slope pavement, like at Frenchman's Creek. We could do like something, believe me, it's up to, there's a lot of HOA input and stuff on them. So I'm just giving, it's just a hypothetical. Instead of doing the traditional, we shell the creek in the back to give more inline volume and more conveyance. And we'd love to do that in the whole jurisdiction of our district, but we shell the creek and make it nice there, a 4-to-1 slope, where we've done that 1,000,000 times here through our district. In the front of the acreage, instead of possibly putting traditional detention and maybe a nice walking path around in conjunction with the city or whatever, we take that, we get rid of the concrete in the roads, we scrape that area lower, of course, a lot lower, and we put in actual fill back to lower than it was, but actual, and we're working with A&M on this, water absorbing, high density water absorbing fill that soaks up like 4 times the normal water of regular soil. We plant native grasses that are thirsty.
Yeah.
I'm talking thirsty, that thrive in this community. Trees that are thirsty. And we basically try to suck all the moisture we can out of it and disperse it with friction. So when it does leach into the creek and it goes down our 4-to-1 volumized slope, it's a lot less water. And we want to do a contrast comparison with Dr. Sam Brody to see, is that indeed more effective? We know it's prettier probably because we can control exactly how it looks. But is it indeed as effective, or is it even more effective than a traditional detention facility that holds X amount of acres of feet, 10 acre feet, 15 acre feet?
Yeah, or maybe there's a combined project that's really the most effective for us.
Well, and they're exploring all kinds of ways instead of concrete, using these areas where they have these octagonal shapes, and then they fill that with a very absorbent sand, and they absorb the water versus letting it run off.
That's what we're talking
They're doing
about.
a lot of stuff.
So anyway, Samantha, thank you very much.
My email's up there, and the district phone, if anybody has any questions.
You can make that report available on our site.
Okay.
I appreciate that. I know it's getting late.
Make a quick
Yeah.
Yeah.
on her part. So a little inside baseball, what do we talk about amongst, this? So after council last night, while council was in executive session, myself and Rusty and Sam stood in the parking lot behind City Hall and talked about that. What would it be like if this building had a green roof that water didn't block it off of as it rained? What if it didn't just hit the parking lot and run and then go to the ditches? What if it was absorbed? What if we changed the way you look at things and the way things work? So we didn't talk politics, we didn't talk sports or life. We were a couple of dorks sitting in the parking lot talking about the best way to get rid of water.
Well, they're dorks, not
All in favor? I mean, hello.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Sam, very much. Number 12. Mr. Griffon, city report, city council.
Good evening, council and staff, citizens all. Just like you all did this evening with adopting your budget and accepting your rate plan, the city council did too last night. We adopted a tax rate to support the budget of 0.514172, which is effectively a 3.85% tax increase. And we also, I'd like for you all especially to know that we've hired a new young lady who graduated from Lamar University. She's a Navy Seabee, and her name is Mara Blackburn, and she'll be laser focused on flooding and that sort of thing. And we'll probably be visiting with y'all real soon and getting to know each of y'all and all the projects that are going on. I know that that's a big learning curve. That learning curve has been going on, like Joseph said, for 20, 40 years. And I'm really excited to hear about the barge. I don't care how many studies I've heard so far, whether it's the Obedient, the Brazen Nichols, the Lower Clear Creek, or even the tunneling. I don't know if y'all were around when we were doing the tunneling. The most cost effective, and I'll say that again, the most cost effective way to convey water on that creek is to clear it, de-snag it, and get the resistance out of the way. And that's what scares League City the most, is that we do such an efficient job up here in this part of the area by being able to get up on that creek, clear it out, get the trees down, get it cleaned out. That water moves, and it's the most cost-effective way to get the water out of our district. So I'm real excited to see what you guys bring in. Looking forward to that. And personally, just my own personal opinion, I'm very skeptical. Those that you all know me, I'm not a big climate change activist. I'm not a big person who says our sea levels are threatened. It's like I've got a beach house, 1966, to look at that canal, and it hasn't risen in the canal 2 feet. So I'm a little skeptical. There might be areas where geologically we've had subsidence based on what's underneath that area that failed, but that subsidence is that way. And I'm a little skeptical when it comes to all the climate change activists and that sort of thing. But that's just me personally and my own personal opinion. Y'all can all disagree with me, but that's fine. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Robert. We have some robust conversations. It's pretty funny, actually. I'm glad they don't record them, but it's funny. We had one this afternoon just before the meeting. That was funny. I laughed all the way to the house after listening to him. But anyway, he's dedicated to flood and drainage. So that's what I'm saying. If we can agree, we're always moving the right direction, and Griffon's committed to it. So it's a good fit. Yes, sir.
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
On the clearing and all that stuff on the Clear Creek, just I want to let everybody know, since 2008, at that time, the district was mowing and maintaining roughly 60 miles of creek. As of today, in 16 years, it's over 200 miles. And that's just to show everyone how much clearing and de-snagging the district has done, and that maintenance has picked up that much. And like on Clear Creek, we still got trees down. 90% of them from the Harris County side. And I'm sorry to say that, but it is. And when they're down, we get them out anyway, because that's the right thing to do. So it's a big deal, and I couldn't agree with you more. Do it. Clearing and shoving and letting it go.
Very cost effective.
Thanks, Robert. City engineer. Oh, sorry, Jim. I didn't see you.
Did I understand you a couple of months ago to say that FEMA's going to reimburse the city for the trash pickup?
See, once we're declared a state of emergency, the city is eligible for reimbursement by FEMA. And we have to go through our own expenditures right now, which we've, I think, expended to the tune of about $5 million right now. So we're hoping like crazy that this this storm does go by. But when we contract with Crowder Gulf and Crowder Gulf contract with Quill Brothers with the trucks, they come in and haul the debris. We ticket everything. Everything has to be ticketed. Everything has to be documented, just like she was saying. FEMA is going to audit it maybe a couple of times, and then they'll start reimbursing. I know that during what was the last one? Harvey took 4 years for us to be completely reimbursed. Ike took 10 years for us to be reimbursed. So this is a major outlay for the city, and that's one of the reasons why I asked Joseph if they had any extraordinary expenses that they incurred because of that. Once we are declared a state emergency, then which we have, they declared Texas a state of emergency fairly. I think they kind of held it a little bit because of that. I don't know, but they did declare it, and we are going to be reimbursed. But the initial outlays is coming out of what we call our emergency reserve.
Okay, the reason I asked the question is that applicable to us?
Yes, the hazard mitigation grant program. Well, there's a bunch of them, but yeah, there are some programs available.
You should be able to get refunded.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about, I was gonna have that.
You're talking about the debris removal?
And whatever fell in the creek.
We could have it, but talking with Brian Mansfield, you used to piggyback off the adjacent entity, and now they've done that away. So no.
Well, it's getting more and more difficult. You're right.
Yeah.
That since Harvey, they did reestablish some rules and regulations, and the amount that they're recompensating is getting stricter and stricter and less. So that's just what the federal government's doing through FEMA. But you're right. It is getting more difficult to get reimbursed.
I'd like for us to look into that.
Yeah. Especially when you were in the creeks pulling debris, that's y'all's jurisdiction. You should be able to get reimbursed.
We weren't doing the same thing that the city was doing.
That's
It's just you're in the creek, you're not.
And we're on the street. And we're on the street.
And it's not the magnitude of what debris
Right, not even close.
that the city is removing.
It could be, but it's not. I think we had more magnitude after a major flood.
No, Ike
Yeah,
was a major deal.
You know,
And we got reimbursed here like $2.8 million.
Yeah, but that took a long time. It took a long time for the city to get, they were pretty quick with Harvey, but they took them a long time for Ike.
Yeah.
We're literally almost to the anniversary of Ike. It's the 13th, September 13th, right?
Yeah.
On 2008.
September 1st and 2008.
Any more questions for Robert? No city engineer, no city planning and zoning, city or League City. Matt, long wait.
Good evening, everybody. Just an update on development in League City. And I'm gonna be expedient with this. So, Westland Ranch, Magnolia Bayou Drive, which is the north-south collector that eventually will connect to 517. They're about, I'd say 90% done. They just recently got their TxDOT permitting situated with that connection to 517. So now that paving and so forth can be addressed. So there's still some paving pending on that project. That's what we're pending there. There's a section 6 that's adjacent to that Magnolia Bayou that's awaiting this road to be completed. So utilities have been installed in that section. The paving is fairly close, but I'd say they're probably 80 or 90% complete as well. And then on the north side of Westland Ranch's development, Muldoon Parkway, the phase 4 extension of that, which goes to the boundary of that development. Last time I spoke to you guys, they were working on the punch list. I think this rain has kind of slowed things down. So that punch list still hasn't been achieved, but they're very close, and we'll be accepting that roadway shortly. And after that roadway is accepted by the city, then sections 8 and 9, which is adjacent to that, will be accepted shortly after that. And then Section 10 is the next section that will be constructed and coming online, but that's early in the construction stages. And then I like to always give you guys an update on the legacy development. As you know, the League City Parkway connection there in front of the golf course, Mad Creek Golf Course, is complete. The connection to Friendswood on League City Parkway is complete. They are now working on excavating their pond, so they're working on the rough cut of that development of those ponds. And then we have approved plans for Legacy Drive, Legacy Drive, West Boulevard, and the first two sections. Construction has not started on any of those projects yet, though. And I told Hill at Friendswood that I'd keep him in the loop, especially when it came to the extension of West Boulevard. Make sure we keep Friendswood apprised on that, because I know, that affects Friendswood as well. But I think that's all I got on the updates for construction.
I want to go back one thing I forgot to ask Scott about, because it's in League City, but the League City jurisdiction part, I believe the pedestal.
Center Point,
What happened?
it's falling on deaf ear. I told them that the request for the variance was denied, and haven't heard from them. So it's probably gonna go to Miss Page. And she's gonna get the,
Got her a jackhammer and an excavator.
well, she said she'd be out there the next day. I told her.
Are you aware of that, Matt?
Yeah, I was at that last meeting. Scott's. I talked to Scott. I have not heard anything about it myself, so I'll keep my ears to the street on that one, and keep you guys apprised if I hear any progression or development on that.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Sure.
Maybe we'll move you towards the top of the agenda so you can go home earlier.
No, I do want to say, Matt, if you want to try to attend with the Dickinson Bayou Watershed Steering Committee, we've got that one coming up on October 1st.
Okay. If I can get on that mailing list, I'll start putting that on my calendar, and I'll attend those.
Okay.
While we're violating the agenda, Robert, when is your next watershed steering committee? Oh, never mind. It's not.
You'll get an email.
I know, I just didn't know if you wanted to announce.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.
Board of Directors report, Mr. Gibson.
Scott.
I will announce next month. It should be that time, yeah. Every other month.
Sure. Pictures of the FM 1959 project that I took Monday. And seeing a line of trucks there and digging about 14 feet deep, and they're averaging 16 trucks an hour.
Wow.
That's good.
My gosh.
No, this is 1950.
Yeah, it's
60 Farm Road.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Just so everybody knows.
You're right.
this detection actually worked during Burrow. They said it almost overflowed the berm, and so it filled up pretty good.
So the man dumps are hauling 16 to 18 cubic yards of material.
And that kind of gives you a perspective of how large area they've already excavated. See a pickup truck up on the levee? You see how small it is?
Yeah.
It's massive.
And it's, I would estimate they're close to 40% complete with the first phase of this project.
That entire area is
That's some really nice dirt that's coming out.
Does that mean they're gonna dig all of that out, all the way to the Dixie Farm Bridge?
Yes.
Eventually?
Yeah,
Potentially.
There's a phase one, phase.
There'll be an expansion to it. Right now, there's some wetlands there that they're trying to get a determination on them.
Artifact.
And the artifacts, and where the artifacts are, you cannot do nothing with that, but where the wetlands are, they're trying to get a determination on that, and if not, then they'll have to buy into a mitigation bank if it's available for wetlands for them to increase that.
Right now where you don't see any trees, all that'll be dug out.
It is.
We run into wetlands. And so that's still an issue, whether or not we get to do that or not.
So that's where the paintball place was. right?
Yes,
Yes.
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 And like each one of the end dump trucks, they're hauling 16 to 18 cubic yards of dirt in each one, so.
It's amazing to watch.
And that's myrtle wood on the other side of those
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah, but, yeah, but see what a good job we are protecting you on this side.
Well,
Like I said,
quick comment on that.
pull out the plug and it's already been mitigated.
Very grateful and thankful for all the effort for this project. As Don was mentioning, on the other side of that is many of our homes still flooded in Barrel.
Yeah.
So there's still work to be done, even though we're 40% complete. We're very grateful and thankful. I know this took a lot of effort and coordination, but there's still work to be done in our area. And then a lot of that has to do with the plug that Don was talking about, the clearing. But we are grateful. I don't want to diminish that. This is a great project.
Thanks.
And Barrel wasn't a rain event.
Yeah, Beryl wasn't a rain event, Beryl was a wind event.
The city of Friendswood has recommended to Harris County Flood Control that they consider a hybrid pump system for this reservoir to where it can be dug a little bit deeper and use pumps to evacuate the water from this level that you see now down to additional 4 feet. So that would expand the capacity.
I think they ran into groundwater a little higher than they anticipated, or it was gonna be quite a bit deeper.
Yeah. So, and we don't know if they're gonna agree to that or not, but we've got $10 million of their bond money that is not part of the project right now, but it's allocated to the project. Pardon?
I think maybe they can move it somewhere else, like garrisoning along the channel in front of the detention pond.
Challenge with when you start hitting the sand vein, is you have to over excavate and import in heavy clay to cap it, right? Or you're gonna have bottom blow up. So you get into, extreme cost, maintenance issues, because it will bubble up. But you're talking about a 3 to 5 foot thick clay liner basically on the bottom of that pond. When you start hitting sand, you start excavating and you de-water, you gotta over excavate.
They are hitting sand right now.
Is it making water?
No,
Yeah.
it's dry.
That's
It's
my
it's
fifth day of
beautiful
the
out there.
water.
Good dirt.
Very straight white sand.
It's almost too good.
And I know this was a big expenditure for the drainage district, but the way the financing was set up, the drainage district is only spending 10 cents on the dollar. You could have never done a project like this without the financing plan that was set up in the other partner.
Correct. Or 27% increase in taxes.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kim?
I don't really have much to say right now. I'm excited about the barge project because that's gonna be something that I'm hoping that we can really work on getting stuff out of the creek and doing it on our own, and then also having it available to to other entities that may end up needing it for something like that. Only other thing I want to say is, Joseph, your family's.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make it quick because there's some really good theater happening right now. Since the last time we saw you, let me just tell the plugsters over here, affectionately, and that's what I call y'all. We're looking into that. And we'll get back to you. Don's been wearing me out about it. I haven't forgotten about it. I've been over there and seen it. Just had a lot of, I've had a lot of learning. So stick with us. Second thing, we had a lot of meetings one week. We had Harris County Flood Control. I was pleasantly surprised. It is a multicultural bunch of really smart engineers and staff. It was a positive meeting. I think my negative opinion of the commissioner's court and the county judge, I feel a whole lot better after meeting with those folks. I think they're interested in the same thing we are. And I see some partnerships developing there. Second, we met with Corps of Engineers District of Galveston. Samantha talked about what's available there. It's a great meeting. I think, we talked about our vision. I think that was a positive step. Third, we met with Sam Brody, who is with Texas A&M Galveston, the chairman of the Texas, the Institute for Disaster Resilient Texas. And interesting thing, he told us about a dam study they did for the Navasota River, having to do with everybody was blaming their flooding on the dam, and they actually did the study for that entity that administers that area, and figured out that it wasn't the dam, it was all the dam development along the river that's causing their problems. So he pulled it out and gave us, I have a copy of it. Anyway, we've talked to him about some drone mapping, and interesting thing Joseph brought up in the meeting was that, I don't know how many years ago it was, but when Dr. Merrill, who Sam worked for back in the day, was running out of money for the mapping study on the flooding in this watershed, Mr. Whitaker and this board came up and donated money. How much money?
It's 500 to 750,000 to.
And what year was that?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look. It was probably when Dr. Merle started the studies.
So Dr. Brody told us, yeah, well, I'm the guy that spent that money on this coastal flooding problem. And my point is, there's a precedent set there that it's not just rubber stamping these damn development flood projects. It's looking at the bigger picture. And Rusty called out, hey, that $750,000, that's a lot of money 15 or 16 years ago. So anyway, we're trying to keep all the balls in the air. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And thank y'all for coming.
Yes. Okay.
Stay.
Thank y'all for
We're almost
coming and
done.
staying. Yes, thank you.
Still a bigger crowd than we had sometime at 8 a.m. So we're
Yes.
we're dwindling though. We're getting pretty thin. Go ahead,
Well,
Mr.
we've
Jackson.
gone very long today.
In the interest of brevity, I'll skip what I was going to talk about. Know that we are working to implement additional safeguards for the board itself moving forward, about who is eligible to be on the board. That'll make that as simple as I can. We'll review that next meeting. One thing I do want to say, I'll keep it high level and vague at first. So if it doesn't apply to you, it won't make sense. When we were running for office, there were a lot of people that worked very, very hard against us. Spent a lot of money. And that was fine because that's politics. But that's behind us. You are working against us now. You're working against the citizens of this district. You're doing a disservice to your friends, your neighbors, and every single person you see every day. It is time to move on. Get on board with us. Let's do the best that we can to take care of our population. Shrinking it down one more level, this is a family here at this district. It is, it absolutely is. And I'm amazed by it. It's awesome. When you come after someone's family, you will be dealt with harshly. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr.
I want to talk about about something quickly. There's been, and this is why I wanted to stay around. I wish everybody would be here because it's important. So tell your friends and tell the citizens, especially on the Clear Creek watershed side of Friendswood. This is important. So let this sink in, and y'all can reach out to me. Just call me on my personal cell phone if you need to hear more about it. There is some hubbub out there, and it might be all smoke about League City wanting to strip away the consolidated drainage district out of their city, where we have spent so much money over these past 2 or 3 decades. So let me say that for 23 years, the Friendswood side of the district over here bobbing around like a cork on the water, going through hardships, watching our homes flood, being financially devastated. We have been like a 401k, like a piggy bank, spending money out in the rice fields of the Dickinson Valley side of our district. That side of our district was being prepared for the day when it would be used to generate tax revenue so we could cash in our 401k after 23 years now of suffering and betting on the come for us to spend it for the greater good of the district, since we have that side of the district in such good shape. Thanks to Mr. Anderson and your money and all the work we've done over there. The Madeira Pond that got finished in 2013, that was $2.6 million. Well, this pond right here, basically the same acre feet right now, and I wish Griffon was still here. He needs to watch the video, Robert. It's going to be over $20 million for 700 to 710 acre feet. So what does that tell you? We dug a pond here that we contributed almost $600,000 to. Big City only contributed $171,000. Galveston County contributed 1.7 or 8 million, but it would be 22 or 23 million dollars now. Not to mention all the millions that y'all spent on that side of the district. Now there's homes coming in there, and you're finally going to get cashed in your 401k. You bought that stock a long time ago. It's matured. It's worth a lot of money now, and you have future tax revenue that goes on for infinite amount of years that you're going to get. Your 401ks come due. There's no way the disenfranchisement of all these taxpayers in all this district and this side of the city and the city of Friendswood, everybody else who's paid their taxes, is going to be yanked from them to not mitigate the hardships that y'all have gone through. We've been waiting a long time for those homes to get built and for that tax revenue to come up. So, when everybody says, hey, we might not be able to be as thrifty on the people as we've been in the past. I'm gonna tell you something. Now, as long as I sit here, thrifty is going in the playbook. And when we get more houses out there and it helps mitigate, I'm going to keep your tax bill low, and we're still going to do a hell of a job. And we're going to have more money because we're going to have 6,000 more houses out there that y'all been baking on the come for 23 years. It's not going to be just magically jerked away because politicians and developers want lower standards or they want more money out there that y'all earned through your hard-earned investment that y'all done. So any future questions on that, give me a holler. And if you're looking for a fighter, you got it. You got it. Y'all have my back on this.
Island purchasing, that large tract over by the Georgetown development by the gun range. That's in our CID plan. I mean, like, we don't have it on paper yet, but we've been talking about that property.
Yeah, but just keep your eye on that, because like I said, I've talked to Matt about this. I'm gonna tell you something. The man back there in the right-hand corner is a good man. And I enjoy working with him, and I'm hoping that this is not true. And I want the big city to put this to bed, because municipality on municipality fights and water district jurisdiction fights, we need to move on towards solving the problems with citizens that live here. And those neighborhoods we're building up there, in all actuality, listen, they're probably not going to flood. They're building high now. It's like the new ones here around the Parkway. They're at Klein. Look at Klein. It's like on a mountain over there. They're high. It's the people and the developments from 20 or 30 years ago that are now taking the brunt of it. And Chase Carey from Dixon calls me all the time. He's a native Dixon guy. I think his house has flooded like 8 or 9 times in the last 30 or 40 years. And he comes from an avenue down in Dixon that's not so affluent, and they've taken a punishment. All that water in our Dixon side is going that way. And it's going to end up terminally in Dickinson Bayou down there where it floods, just like Clear Creek ends up in here. And that's my point. Because of this man right here since 2008, we've done a good job in Dickinson mitigating water and getting prepared for the day. And I wish we could hold it back from Dickinson. It's going their way, but we know what it's like to receive all that water. So like I said, that's taxpayer money y'all invested in, and it's your money. And I'd make sure that you talk to Mace Middleton, you talk to Greg Bonin, you talk to Abbott, you talk to Lieutenant Governor, you talk to Jeff Berry, you talk to Randy Weber. You make sure you get out ahead of this. Every state representative and you let them know there is no way that you're getting disenfranchised on that, because we need the revenue to help mitigate and do the things and the concerns that Mr. Gibson had and I had about budgeting to keep y'all's taxes in line. So that's all I have to say on that. Outside of that, and like I said, y'all got my back, I'll fight for you. Outside of that, I'm proud of the board. I'm proud of their thoughtfulness. I'm proud of their ideas. Sorry, my blood sugar was low today. I was trying to skip things. I've been so worked up about this. I met with Paige about this and stuff. I just want this to go away because this is such a waste of time. But I'm proud of the board. I'm proud of the ideas. I'm proud of thinking outside the box. I'm proud of the fiscal concern. I'm proud of David for introducing me to Sam Brody. I'm telling you, we're going to have that guy here from Texas A&M. He is so impressive. And the fact that we spent that money, Harold Whitaker did all that time ago, that kind of freaked me out.
That was foresight.
That freaked me out a little bit because that foresight was pretty remarkable. I wish he was around so I can say, because I said I grew up in the church a long time. I'd like to say, dude, okay, I've given you some grief and I'll agree about half the stuff you did, but I'm gonna tell you something. That wiped out a lot of stuff clean on my list because that's foresight there. So he is so impressive. His ideas for thinking outside the box and the redefinement of the floodplain and developing and the things that he's learned through scientific applications and his PhD program and the young people he brought with him to that meeting. I wish I could have had a board trip and noticed it because I'm telling you, it was freaking awesome. So I like drainage, I can probably tell. So anyway, motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank y'all.
Have a couple of directors to sign the plan.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm proud of y'all. I think. Hey, thanks for it. It's really.